Let's do a little thought experiment.
Okay.
The Niners usually have a lot of injuries. They're usually top 10 in like games missed to injury every year. But let's assume they are really healthy this year. They essentially, all their good players are there for most of the season, if not all the season, except Nick Bosa. Something weird happens with Nick, and he misses a few games because of his contract thing, and then he comes back and he's not right and he gets hurt, and they just don't have Nick this year. What happens to the team then? I mean, where could this team go without Nick Bosa?
This is a tough question. I mean, overall, obviously, this offseason, we've seen this team without Nick Bosa. Are you that confident in the pass rush, but also are you that confident in the overall group as run defenders? Because Nick Bosa is not just a great pass rusher. He's a very solid run defender. And instead, it goes from Nick Bosa to Drake Jackson. That's the drop-off, right? Whereas Drake Jackson's going to be the guy who subs in if Nick Bosa's out. I think this team doesn't go as strong as they are because the symbiotic relationship between the pass rush and the cornerbacks, that's gone without Nick Bosa. Now, I do want to say this. The 49ers kind of prepared for this because they did sign Javon Hargrave, who is a very, very good pass rusher. But you do have to worry about the run defense because it's not just one gap that the 49ers are now, teams are looking to exploit on the 49ers. Javon Hargrave is the guy they'll run at, but they'll also run to the outside. You've got an inside guy and an outside guy that you kind of can scheme against. And so that's something that you do have to worry about a little bit more. I do think that Nick Bosa, as crazy as this sounds, despite him being the most valuable player on the team in terms of defense, I do think, though, that there are some other players where if you have them gone, their importance is a little more for this specific team.
I'm going to say something crazy, maybe outrageous, but I think the Niners could survive. I think they could win the division. I think they could go far without Nick Bosa. Maybe not win the Super Bowl, maybe, but they had a top 5 defense with Robert Saleh in 2020 when Bosa missed the whole season. And what you'd have to do is blitz more on third down. But Steve Wilks has a whole history of that. You do have a number 1 corner in Trevarius Ward who can shadow the best wide receiver on third down and force you to go elsewhere, like they had with Jason Verrett a few years ago. Obviously be better with Nick Bosa, but this team has so much talent on offense. They do have 2 really good D tackles. They have the best middle linebacker, a really good corner, 2 really good safeties. I feel like they wouldn't have the number 1 defense, but I feel like they'd still be a really good team, and they'd still have a good enough defense to win. I mean, they were scoring 35 points a game down. I don't expect that again this year, but I just feel like they could survive without Nick. They could probably get another edge rusher if they needed to. Edge rushers are kind of abundant. You could sign one. You could trade for one. Maybe they're thinking that, Nick Bosa's a great player, but our defense was good without him that year. I don't know. Obviously, you'd rather have him. I don't think it'd be the end of the world.
No, but I'll say this. I don't know if it's just me. With the trade possibility of Nick Bosa out there, I know John Lynch and all have tried to squash it. With the trade possibility out there, my mind has kind of been spinning, What can the 49ers get for Nick Bosa? And I'm not saying the 49ers should trade him.
Good to know. What is the exact value? Yeah.
That haul, I think, would be tremendous. And I'll say
what do you think it would be?
I think it could be 2 first-round picks and a player. That's the type of haul that
I would agree with that. You could almost get 3, although you might just rather with Bosa. I'd be scared to trade him for picks because the Niners just are awful at drafting in round 1. I might just rather trade him for a quarterback. Do you think you could do that? Who's the best quarterback you could get for Nick Bosa?
The issue with quarterback, and I know that we don't like talking semantics and stuff, but the issue with quarterback is truly the contract situation where it's so hard to trade quarterbacks unless they're going to get, unless they haven't been paid yet. So it would probably be a guy who's still on his rookie deal because a lot of people like to throw out Justin Herbert. He just got paid that massive deal. The Chargers would have to take like $150 million in dead cap to trade him. So that's the main issue with it, to where I kind of settle on picks. But I'll
trade him for CJ Stroud.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that could work.
Hey, D'Amico, here you go.
That could like something like that, something like that, maybe. But I want to throw this at you.
Yeah, okay.
Nick Bosa, right? Do you think trading Nick Bosa extends the 49ers championship window because they don't pay another player?
I would trade Nick Bosa. I don't like the idea of spending quarterback money on a non-quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball. He's a great player, but he doesn't play quarterback, and you're paying him like he's a quarterback. So I don't care about your cheap quarterback room. You have an expensive quarterback room. It's just your quarterback plays defensive end. Sweet. That's a really important position, but quarterback's a way more important position. We've seen Nick Bosa get neutralized in playoff games. And one of the things that sucks about playing defense in general, it seems like on the biggest stage, the NFL wants scoring. So on the fourth quarter, you can hold Nick Bosa. Kind of seems like it. Didn't that happen in the Super Bowl already? Like, Niners are still upset. Oh, Nick Bosa got held. Yeah, and he'll get held again the next time you're in the Super Bowl, and they won't call it because they want 38-35. They want 45-44. And that's what they got last year. So, yeah, I would trade him for someone who plays quarterback. Or even right tackle. I'm starting to feel like right tackle is a more important position, a tougher position to fill with an elite player than DN. You can get edge rushers. They're out there. Are really good right tackles out there? There's a few. It wasn't ever Michael Lynchy.
That is not a bad take. It is so scarce. Right tackle hard. It is so scarce because guess what? If you're a tackle in the NFL, where do you want to play? You want to play on the left side. You want to be the blind side guy because that's where the money is, right? Mm-hmm. But at right tackle, you don't really see too many right tackles out there.
No, and what you've seen is that the average salary for right tackles has exploded the last 10 years by 200%. So it's almost like you can make almost as much money playing right tackle. It's almost as important.
You don't have to be that good.
Well, it'd be nice if you're as good as Tristan Wirfs, who the Niners could have had. Be nice. Flave says Jed wants money first, Super Bowl second. Niners have made more money with Kyle Shanahan trade, Jimmy, and just contending than they ever have. Unless Kyle Shanahan gets in a fight with Jed, they start losing and profits go down. Nothing changing. Sure. I think part of the reason they've made so much money is because Kyle Shanahan's reputation has been so sterling among fans and media. And I think that this regime's stock is as low as it's ever been right now, which is wild to think about, considering they've been here this long and they've had some losing seasons. But I think Niner fans and media have been really patient with them and haven't said anything disparaging. But now you're saying like, yeah, they're good, but that quarterback thing is really weird. And even Jimmy said it. That's what's messed up.
It's crazy because like this is not a bad team necessarily, but you're right. This is where the stock is kind of, starting to fall just because that honeymoon period is really over. You don't have that shiny new head coach anymore, kind of thing like that.
You know that? Have you seen Training Day? You haven't seen Training Day, but there's that scene where like Denzel Washington realizes that like everyone's surrounding him and everyone's against him and he's got no allies. It just feels like Kyle's kind of realizing that like, okay, the owners probably think I've mishandled this quarterback situation. Jimmy said it on the record. Matt Mayoko challenged me. Like no one agrees with me. Everyone thinks I've botched this. And now what I have to do is win the Super Bowl. Like this is high stakes. That's the way I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jed's letting him off the hook. Don't you think getting the most untruthful? Hold on, Ethan. Most untruthful this team has ever been. I don't know. Do you assume they tell you the truth? A journalist is supposed to assume they're lying to you. You just kind of work from there. Honestly, HB Nate says, "Don't you think getting DJ the reps would we what? Don't you think getting DJ the reps we would be okay? Who's DJ? DJ.
I am not sure.
That was from 5 minutes ago. Dante Johnson.
Get Dante Johnson reps.